Now let's see some examples on declaring and initializing and using variables in Java. So what I did is I created a Java class. For now it's an empty Java class, just has a main method, doesn't have anything to execute once we run it. So let's declare things like variables here, and then we run it, and once we declare those things and run them, let's see what's happening with them. So for example, I'm going to declare an integer. Let me call it x is equal to 5. Again, let me declare another value, so double y is equal to 5.5. Let me declare a character, let me call it a, and that is going to be nothing but the letter A. Now keep in mind, if I have it as an uppercase letter A, then it's going to be printed as an uppercase or lowercase if it's lowercase, because Java is case sensitive. Let's also declare some boolean, and let me call it b, that is equal to true. Now what can I do with them? I can do something like this. System dot out. Now keep in mind, system is a class, so it has to be uppercase S. System dot print line, and in here I can just do some equation. So I can just print x. Now this x is the reference of the variable x. Now if I do this, what's gonna get printed? Is it going to print the letter x, or is it going to print this value of x right here? So let's try this. Now I'm into my code, direct dir to check. I have my data types here, so Java C data types dot Java. And let me try to zoom in on this. Properties. Let's try to increase the font size to something like this to make it more visible. Now let me try to compile datatypes.java, and we compiled it. So let's try to run it, and again, to run it we don't have the Java C, we just have Java and then data types. So what do you think is going to get printed? Is it the value of x, or is it x? So let's do this, and now we get 5. Why didn't it print x? So what's gonna happen if I do this? Now what's gonna be printed? So let's compile and run. Now I get x. Why did I get x and I got 5 before? So in the second try I got x, but in the first try I got 5. What is making this difference? The answer is, if you use quotation, then again, anything in quotation, any word or any letter or anything inside quotation will be dealt with as is. So if I say print x in this case, it's going to basically print x, but in this case it's going to give me the value of x. Now let's try to test out the theory that says, or the rule that says, you cannot use a value or variable without initializing. So we also know that Java will start executing from top to bottom. So let me try to print x before telling Java what x is. Save it and try to compile it. So you will get an error saying cannot find symbol. So when you see something like cannot find symbol, and it says then symbol is variable x, that means you're telling me to deal with this x that I don't know. Although x is defined in the line that's right under this print statement, but again, Java is going to read everything from top to bottom. So if you don't have it at top, then you don't have it when you come to that line. So let's take this back. Now it's going to be the same error if you don't even have it in the code, and it's going to tell you cannot find symbol. Now can I do something like x plus y? So let's try this. So I'm adding two numbers now. Java C, compile, we done it. So let's add them, and then we have 10.5. Now let's try our container rule. Let's flip these. 5.5 is gonna be up top, and 5 is going to be in the bottom. Now, as per the container rule, line 7 should have no problems whatsoever. Line 6 should have a problem. Why is that? Because in line 6, the item is larger than the container, but in line 7, the item is smaller than the container. So let me try to compile this. And indeed, it's complaining about Java line 6 in here, and saying 5.5 possible lossy conversation from double to int, and before this it says incompatible types. So this cannot fit in that container. Now if I do it just like that, and then let me try to print y in here. So what's gonna happen if I assign an integer to a double container? In fact, it's going to work fine, but as you can see, it's going to attach the 0.0 to it, because you know it has to fill that container some way, and it's gonna fill it with something that does not change the value of that number, and that is why we are getting the 0.0. Now anytime you want to use those values that are inside the variable x, y, and even a, so if I print a right here, I can just go ahead and save this and print it. It's going to print the letter a on my screen. Now you just call it by the reference. Now this is the reference again, and this is the value. This is the reference, this is the value, like this. So whatever the name that you call your variable is basically your reference, and whatever you assign it as a value is called the value of your variable. Now let's talk more about declaring and initializing. So declaring a variable will reserve a box in the computer's memory, and the name of that box is the variable name, and the content is its value. So remember the container rule. Every time you create a variable, an item cannot fit in a smaller container, but it can fit in a larger container. Now multiple variables can be declared at once, so you have to separate them by commas, and they have to be the same data type, and by the end of any Java statement you will end that with a semicolon. So for example, if I want to define an integer for the number of hours in a day, another integer for number of minutes in a day, and a third integer for number of seconds in a day, I can just say int and then follow it number of hours, comma, number of minutes, comma, number of seconds, and end everything with semicolon. Now declare variable can then be initialized, but you cannot initialize them in the same line. You have to initialize them separately. So you'll have to go, okay, since I declared the number of hours, then I will initialize it in another line on its own. I will initialize number of minutes in another line, and number of seconds in a different line. One more thing that we need to address is that Java is strongly typed language. This means every variable must be declared with its data type. So you cannot just say x is equal on. You have to tell me what is x. Is it an integer? Is it a double? Is it what? And then once you declare it, the data type cannot be changed. So for example, if I declare this as a boolean, the variable type then cannot be changed. So the value can, but the type cannot. So let's say I declare it as a boolean. The next line I said boolean, or I say boolean b is equal to true. The next line I try to change it to an integer is gonna complain. This is going to give me a compile time error, but the other one will work just fine without any problem. Now I want to talk about Java operators, and this is one of the easy topics. So let's just cover this topic, and then we will try to use them. Now the assignment operator, it will assign the value on its right to the reference on its left. Now for example, if I say a is equal to 1, that means I'm assigning the value of 1 into a. Now what if I say, for example, let's say I say this. I have an integer a that I set it to 0, and then I have another integer that's b, or let's have it lowercase b, it doesn't matter in this case because we did not use the other one. Set it to 10 and semicolon. Then I come in this line and say, okay, now what I want to do is a is equal to b. Which one of those is going to change? So if I say this statement, now what is a and what is b? So let's look at this. It says assigns the value on its right to the reference on its left. So now this is going to be the reference and this is going to be the value. So it's exactly similar as saying a is equal to 10. So now in this case, a is going to be 10 and b is going to remain 10 because we just defined it in the line above. Now if I say, instead of this line, let's take this out, and if I say, okay, now I want to say b is equal to a. What is a and what is b in this case? So again, this is the reference, and this is the value, which is a. So in this case, a is going to remain as is, which is 0, and the reference is going to be changed to have b as 0 as well. Now addition plus sign will add those together and will assign their value to the reference. Subtraction will do the same. Multiplication again the same. We'll multiply those together, assign the value or the result to the reference. Division is going to be the same. Keep in mind we will have something that we call integer division, and we will have regular division, and we will talk to them and we will show the difference through an example. And finally we have the mod operator, modulus. We call this modulus. Now what's going to happen in this, it will return the division remainder. So 5 mod 2 is the remainder of this. So actually if we do integer division, then 5 divided by 2 is actually going to be 2, and we have a remainder of 1. So 5 mod 2 is going to be 1 in this case.